And hello, everybody. It is Tom Chenault, and it's my little boy, Adrian Chenault, and we are the Legacy Leadership Radio Show. And wow, we have got a show for you today that is going to it's going to inspire you. It's going to make you happy. And I just love this guy, and I love his books, and he is amazing. And Adrian loves him. Normally, all the guests are guys that are old cronies of mine that Adrian kind of rolls his eyes at. This guy, I had lunch with Adrian today, and he was so pumped up about this show, he wouldn't stop talking about it. I finally had to change the subject. Adrian, you love this guy. Why?
I do. I just think he's so interesting. And it's kind of a cool backstory because Stu and I actually connected about 1.5 years ago. And so we'll tell a little bit of the story of that as well. But just an amazing guy. As soon as I started to hear his story and learn about this new book that he has just released, I was completely enthralled and intrigued. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to have a ton of fun. And so Stu Heinecke is the author of How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. He's also the author of a book called How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. I didn't know if it was anyone or anybody. And he is just somebody who has brought incredible creativity and even some artistry and some fun, really, to what it means to stand out and from the rest of the crowd in the world of business. He is an incredibly accomplished cartoonist for many incredible publications, including the Wall Street Journal, and just a really cool guy. So welcome to the show, Stu. How are you today?
Thanks. It sounds so great. I was like, I got to hear this guy.
Oh my goodness. So Stu, tell us a little bit about your background and how you, and I don't actually even know the exact order, how you either went from being a syndicated cartoonist in publications like the Wall Street Journal to being such a well-known business author, or vice versa. How do these things fit together? Because those you don't hear those two things together every day.
No. I know. Well, I studied marketing in school, and but I was already really interested in cartooning, and so I ended up mixing the two very early in my career. I wanted to create direct mail campaigns. That's what I settled on, was creating direct mail campaigns for the big magazine publishers, so Time Inc. and Condé Nast and so on, and the thing I wanted to do, though, is I wanted to mix cartoons and personalization into these direct mail campaigns. Well, there was bad news. David Ogilvy, not Tom Ogilvy, but David Ogilvy used to say that humor doesn't work in advertising, that people don't buy from clowns and all this stuff. So all the pundits were saying the same thing. And I think, yeah, but wait a minute. Cartoons are the best read and remembered parts of magazines and newspapers. That's a finding of research. Why are you ignoring this? And anyway, my first two assignments, Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit, both of the test campaigns that I created for them with these personalized cartoons beat their controls. And I thought, okay, now I need to bring this to the rest of the publishing industry. And so that meant reaching out to about, let's say, 24 VPs and directors of circulation that I knew would be hard to reach. I mean, the VPs at Time Inc. and Condé Nast, and so these were big companies. Tom will remember, right?
Sure. Way back when.
They were huge. and so I thought, well, how am I going to reach them? Well, I've got to put together a little campaign. I didn't know what to call it. I called it a contact campaign. And it consisted of a print of a cartoon, each personalized to each recipient, and a note that said, hey, this is the device I just used to beat the controls for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit, and we should put these to the test. And I'm just going to ask you guys, what do you suppose I got? What would you expect for a response rate to a campaign like that?
I would say extremely high.
I would say low, because they would never even receive the thing.
No, I say high.
All right.
It's a giant setup, because actually, in the direct mail business, they were always saying a 1% response rate was good, 100% response rates were impossible, and I got a 100% response rate.
Bang, bang.
Told you, Tom. Yes, that's right. So
I knew it.
But so that all of this. Okay, so I started creating direct mail campaigns, beat a lot of controls. So I set a lot of new records for those magazines and everyone else. But I was always coming back to it. But wait a minute, there was that campaign that I did originally that got 100% what response. What is that about? And I started playing with it and I started reaching out to, I don't know, CEOs and top decision makers, but also presidents of countries and prime ministers and celebrities, because I wanted to see, well, how far can this go? How can I meet anyone? Does that work? And it was working. And so I thought, well, isn't that cool? I've got a secret weapon, and then realized, wait a minute, everybody's trying to get meetings. People have been doing the most amazing things to get meetings. What have they been doing? And that turned into my first book, how to get a meeting with anyone, because people have been doing the most amazingly clever things to get meetings. It's just amazing. But one of the things I realized also, actually, just going back a little bit further, one of the things, another early experience I had was I was driving down the freeway, the Santa Monica freeway, and I spotted a weed growing out of a crack in the concrete median. And I said, man, that's amazing. This is all concrete, and it's growing out of a crack in the concrete. And so on the one hand, I'm saying, how on earth did it get there? And on the other hand, we all know how it got there. Those seeds float around and they probe every possible opportunity to take root. And I just thought, what an amazing example to live up to. Could I do that? Could I be like that dandelion in my career? And it got me wondering, is there, what makes a weed a weed? What makes them so special? Because look, there are no apple trees growing out of the cracks in the concrete or petunias. They couldn't make it as a weed. So what is it that weeds are doing? Do they have a model? Is there a unified model to what they're doing? And can it be applied to business? And it turns out they do have a model, and it can be applied to business. So I hope that sort of answered the question and more. But
that's cool. I love that. So we've got a few minutes before our first break here, and I want to talk. Let's spend the rest of this little segment talking about some of the things. So you had this breakthrough sort of insight that you got 100% response rate direct mailing into really high value, hard to reach targets in these big companies. This sort of a curiosity was born of that. And you went out and looked at other people who were sort of outliers in this ability to connect with really big people. And so what are some of the principles or the themes that came out of that show up in the book, how to get a meeting with anyone?
Well, you're both CEOs, if I'm not mistaken, right? So you get contacted all the time as well. And when people reach out to you, when they reach out to anybody who's important, who's running a company, who's in demand, I guess one thing that would be helpful is if they know something about the company and about you and about what you're doing, what's on your mind, like what's on your plate, what are you actually focused on? So relevance is a big one. Another one is having respect for your time. If they take a lot of time to explain why they're reaching out, that they're going to waste a lot of your time. But if they're respectful of your time, that seems to show up really well. But I think the big one is showing up in a way that really is intriguing, that has people just saying, "Oh my God, who is this?" I mean, I love the way you think. We've got to meet.
That's so true. And so there's almost kind of two layers to this, right? The first layer is there's kind of an 80-20. The 80-20 is do like just the basic amount of background research on a company to actually be able to say something meaningful to the person and to speak to what the company is doing. And you have, in 5 minutes of time, and usually less, you have already outpaced over 80% of the competition who just sends the same old copy paste to literally everybody. And if I even open it, which is unlikely, I immediately delete it, right? So it's not that hard to get first past that gate of just standing out from all the idiots out there that are not doing any work at all, right, Stu?
Yeah, I think so. And of course, I'm along the way, I've left out the cartooning part, but I'm also one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. I've got a lot of cartoons. I've used cartoons in marketing my whole career. And so I know how to use them. And if I send someone a cartoon, one of my cartoons, I get through. If I reach their assistant, who is often, their job is to make sure that they don't let the wrong people through. And so if I'm saying, "Hi, I'm Stu Heinecke," we don't know each other, but I'm Stu Heinecke, and I'm I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists, and I'm sending a print of one of my cartoons, and it happens to be about Tom or Adrian. I think your assistant is usually what the assistant says. What, really? So
Yeah. That's exactly.
So you get through.
Yeah. And so then that's where the magic and, really some of the artistry and the creativity come out. And I think that's a really fun part of what you have done. And, when you and I, so Stu and I connected about 18 months ago during the pandemic, largely over the similarity in the name contact mapping and contact marketing, which is what Stu came to call this sort of magic that he has created in the way that he reaches out to people. And so we started talking, and I got to sit in one time on a mastermind, so to speak, that you were running with people that you were helping to implement contact marketing. And so I got to be a fly on the wall to people who were attempting to get in the front door through, somebody they don't even know who runs a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund, somebody who's, people who are, again, have a lot of money, have no reason to pay attention to somebody that they don't know coming through the door. And how do they go about doing it? And it was so fun because people were trading these really creative ideas for how to open that door. And so, Stu, in the students and the groups that you've worked with over the years, do any things come to mind of some really standout creative ideas that people who have followed you have used to open up some doors?
Yeah, well, I mean, not just the people who follow. The thing is, people have gotten in touch and said, "I read your book, and I went out and I made $300,000." That's happened a couple of times now. Like, oh my God, we didn't charge enough for that book.
No kidding.
But the thing that really broadens it is, what has everybody been doing, and what are the sort of like the standout campaigns? And I'm just going to tell you, I don't know how much time you have before the break, but
1 minute to break.
1 minute. So the record for response to a contact campaign is over 300%. I'll probably have to explain that after the break. And then the record for ROI on a contact campaign is the highest one we know of is 96,500,000%.
That's it.
It's crazy.
So, and I think there's a secret and there's a principle in there. So we're going to take a break here in just a minute. I'm going to let my poor dad say something on the other side of the break, I promise. But there's a principle there that sometimes when you slow down and you really, really put the focus and the emphasis and the effort into treating people as important as they truly are, that magic can happen beyond your wildest dreams. So we're interviewing Stu Heinecke, the author of How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. Go check out StuHeinecke.com, HEINECKE.com at the break, and we'll be right back.
That was a fun segment. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Rob. Hello, Daniela. Who else do we have on here in the next couple of seconds during the break?
Denise Towner Chenault. I think we know her.
Yeah, Christina. Jim Carpenter. This is right in your wheelhouse. I was going to talk about that if he ever lets my mouth move.
All right. We'll see if we'll see if you have good vibes on the other half of this break. All right. This is a shorter segment, so we're coming back right after this.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Tom Chenault. It's Adrian Chenault. And it is Stu Heinecke. No, Heinecke. No, Heinecke. Stu Heinecke. That's how you say his name.
That's it, yeah.
Sometimes wrong in my mind. So I thought, well, I'll just pull that elephant out of the refrigerator, see if I can piss him off to bring him back, because I did know how to say it exactly correctly. And here's what people love the most about me. And that's what I remember about them. And what Stu has done is he's written 2 phenomenal books doing just that. That when people get engaged by him, they're automatically related at a level they've never been before. So their curiosity is piqued by the amount of respect that Stu had with the work that he did to open up the conversation. And I love it because it's what I try to do at a very, very low level. I didn't even know a guy like this existed. And what he is doing is exactly what all of you need to do. You need to buy his books. That's that simple, right?
That's exactly right.
I'm done.
No, keep going.
No, I'm done.
I insist. All right. So there's the ratio, like the laws of physics were defied by the 2 things that you shared just before the break. So how does one achieve a 300% response rate and a 96% return on investment?
Well, so a couple of campaigns that I've got to tell you about. One of them is it was actually just a business, the guy's business card. So I have to explain. It's printed on rubber, so a little sheet of rubber, and then it's pulled tight on a jig, and then they printed the fellow's name and his contact information, and then they took it off once it dried and cured, then they took it off the jig. It returns to its normal shape, and so all of the details are now squeezed together. That's the genius of the whole thing, because he would. So what would happen is he'd get into conversations with someone, and they'd say, "Well, what do you do? What do you do? Well, do you have a business card?" And he'd pull out this little floppy piece of rubber, and of course, people naturally, it's like, well, like a balloon, right? Yes, exactly. You got to stretch it, and when you stretch it, it reveals it's Paul Nielsen's card. He's a fitness trainer, and guess what? He already has you exercising.
Oh my gosh.
And so people they'd say, "Can I keep your card?" Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. So they'd whip it out in the office. They'd show it, like they're talk whenever they're talking to anyone. They kept it in their pockets, and they'd pull it out. They check out this business card I got from this guy the other night, and everyone naturally they pull it and say, "Look at that! This guy's a fitness trainer. He already has you exercising," and they just go, "Oh my God, I love this so much. Can I write down his number?" So Paul said that every time he handed out one of those, he'd get 3 or 4 new clients.
Wow,
so
That's crazy.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the other one is so clear your palate. Here's a startup, and they were making a tongue cleaner. So it was just this plastic tongue cleaner appliance, and they wanted to become the biggest tongue cleaner company in the world. And they started by using they hired these young guys at BYU, and they were running these videos on YouTube, and they had a spokesperson, and they had had a giant tongue, and so they were doing that for a year, and they ended up selling about $1 million worth of product. That's pretty good. From YouTube videos. That's really pretty good. And then they thought, well, what's next? I know. What we've got to do is we've got to break into Walmart. And so they went the route that everyone else does. They applied and heard nothing. And so then the young guys, the ones that they're a little out of control, they put together a little ad and ran it on Facebook. So it's that little tiny size, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And it had their spokesperson from the videos, and it said, "Walmart employees have bad breath, but if you do business with them, if you put our product on your shelf, you won't." Anyway, it was the Walmart employees have bad breath that caught the attention of Walmart. They targeted it to to the Bentonville, Arkansas zip code where they're headquartered, and to the right age range and educational range. So they were targeting they were trying to get the attention of the right buyer. What they got the attention of was actually I think it was either the communications department or legal department. I'm not sure which, but one of them reached out within 48 hours, and they said, "Are you the guys running this ad?" "Yeah, we are." "Oh my God, would you please take it down?" "Yeah, of course we'll take it down." "Did you run this thing nationally?" No. We just targeted it to you at your headquarters." "What? Really? Well, geez, you guys are you're actually pretty savvy digital marketers, aren't you?" And yeah. Well, the next thing they knew, they were introduced to the dental products buyer, who said, "Can you support I think it was a 750 unit order, which was $1.5 million. So, it's 1.5 times what they'd made the previous year. And it turned out that the CEO, who's the guy that I interviewed, said that he figured it was a 10x multiplier against a $2 million valuation. So that's part of why that was it was just a bit. Now they're rolled out at Walmart, 6,600 stores in Walmart.
That is so cool. All right. Well, so we're going to take another quick break here. We're going to come back on the other side, and we got to talk about this new book, because what you are doing in how to grow your business like a weed is remarkable. So we're with Stu Heinecke, StuHeinecke.com. Go check him out on the break. We'll be back right after this.
Who's Priscilla Passimo? Do you even know her?
I don't know. She's cool.
Paul Van Deven, how very cool. My wife
love him.
Doug Stair, he's a cool guy. Denise Chenault, I love that woman. It's unbelievable.
She's the best. We're having fun. All right, so we're coming back in another 10 seconds, and let's switch gears.
These are commercial breaks. That's why we're killing time here.
Yeah.
Don't think this is some amateur operation.
No, you guys are doing a great job.
All right.
All right, here we go.
And we're back. It's Tom Chenault and it's Adrian Chenault and it is Stu Heinecke. And this guy is a rock star. If you do anything today, go buy his book called How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. And while you're there on Amazon, buy his other one, because his other one rocks too. This guy was a cartoonist. And, you know, now you're illustrators. You aren't cartoonists anymore. And you go to SCAD. Where did you go to college, Stu?
Oh, I went to USC, but I didn't study art at all. It was
Well, now you got to have the $500,000 degree, and you know you got to have hair and all kinds of shit. But you know, can't even cuss on the radio. Sorry about that. But anyway, yeah. So now you know this guy just went out there and rolled up his sleeves and went to work and became an illustrator for the Wall Street Journal. Then he got to hang with the illustrators and cartoonists from Playboy, Condé Nast, The New Yorker, all these great things, and he learned how they do it, which is all hard work, innovation, and thinking out of the box. I love this guy, and Adrian loves him more.
I do. This book is fantastic. How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. That is looking very funny with our green screen. It is actually this beautiful blue cover, which you're not able to see very well, but it is a fantastic, fantastic book. And I got such a kick out of this. So this probably does not come in your one off of Amazon, but when you send one out to friends, it's got this weed strategy business model in it that has a packet of dandelion seeds inside, which I just thought was so clever.
Oh, there you go.
And so I want to hear more about how, you know, it's such a cool idea, this thought of, okay, weeds, you know, they propagate everywhere. They have, you know, they play by different rules from everybody else. When you told me about the book, I must confess, it sounded really difficult to make that analogy really play out and work to applicable business strategies, but you have done that, my friend. And so talk about some of what you were able to observe and research in the way that that weeds work in nature and how some of those ideas apply to growing, especially a startup like contact mapping, because that's a huge part of what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, by the way, first of all, I'm relieved to see that you didn't open up the seed packet and
I dumped it in his front yard. Don't tell him.
Well, you know, I started at the beginning and said, I was wondering, do weeds have a unified model that they all use to grow? Like we all know what it means to grow like a weed. Does that they have this unified model? And if they do, they do. If they do, is it applicable to business? And what I'm discovering is it's actually, I call it the whole thing weed strategy, and weed strategy seems to be the theory of everything about growing anything, because you know, I've been starting to get involved with consulting, just quick consulting work on this, and we're helping people grow just about anything, like a recruiting effort rather than just a business. Actually, that didn't quite come out right, but
that's super interesting. So dive in a little bit to some of these concepts and share a little bit more with our listeners. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the model. They take all forms and sizes, weeds do, and they're all over the earth. But they all do the same thing. They all follow the same formula. They all leverage a fierce mindset. Got to come back to all of these actually, but a fierce mindset they leverage a fierce mindset and unfair advantages against collective scale, and they do it according to a process that is well honed but dynamic. That's how they do it.
Interesting. Okay.
So should I unpack that a little bit?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So weeds. So let's say the weed mindset. No, I'm not talking about. First of all, we're not talking about this kind of weed. The kind of weed you smoke. We're not talking about a bunch of guys. Like if we're talking about the weed mindset, we're not talking about a bunch of guys smoking a bunch of doobs, going, "Wow, man." It's about. It's the mindset that you see when you try to control weeds at all in your yard, because it's really hard to do. And it's hard to do because they fight back. They are persistent and resilient and aggressive and urgent, and you know, you can't control them actually. So you'll see it. If you cut them down, they immediately go back to, they run their process and they immediately go back to regrowing what was lost. They don't stop. They don't fret about it. They just do it. And that is a really, really important I mean, we're all entrepreneurs here. That's a really important set of attributes to have. Another part of their mindset too, though, is I mentioned earlier, if you see a weed, let's say if you see a dandelion in your lawn, look up, because what you'll see is it's not there alone. It's there with dozens, if not hundreds, of other dandelions. They don't do things alone. They do things. They don't do things at one-to-one scale. They do it at leverage, and they understand leverage, and they use it constantly. One weed, one dandelion showing up in your lawn wouldn't be much of a factor, but hundreds of them, and they're each popping out, like, let's say 15,000 seeds over a 5 to 10 year lifespan. That's really tough to control. So that's part of their mindset, is that they're also great, just natural collaborators. And there's more, but that's the weed mindset. And I think it's amazing that they can have a mindset even though they don't have brains.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, I mean, just, from the perspective of some of the actual science and research that you did, part of what you talk about is that they really, like, this isn't like conceptual working together. Like, there's literal science that shows that plants are able to communicate with each other and to say, hey, there's a herd of elephants coming, put the stuff that makes it taste bad into your leaves so that that'll leave you alone and move on. So there is actual connection and relationship and community being built. And that's essential. You feel like you're working alone. You feel like you're a solopreneur, or that you're sort of operating in a vacuum. But that, if you want to grow like a weed, that's the wrong strategy. You have to reach out and start creating those connections, right, Stu?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought all that up, because they do network, and again, they're natural collaborators. And pardon me for saying this, but I think there's a huge contact patch between that and your business.
Pardon you. We pardon you for that. How do you become the king weed? Is there a boss, or how does this all go down?
Well, let me just stand up for a second. You don't become the king weed. You become the chief weed officer.
Yay! So
you didn't even know that was coming.
Yeah, we didn't even set that up. How do you do that?
Well, you can, first of all, you can get the T-shirt at my site.
Yeah, we'll know that.
But, well, I mean, here's how you do it. You apply weed strategy to your business. I think every business owner ought to be thinking in terms of applying weed strategy to their business, because I wrote the book, and then when I was editing it, I mean, that's more of the experience of reading the book. I'm just saying, oh my God, I'm making so many mistakes in my own business. I tend to prototype our campaigns. I want to put out things that people have never seen before, or let's say just astonishing things anyway. And so usually that involves prototyping. Sending prototypes of things out is not the way to scale anything. So you find ways that weeds help us just see things so absolutely clearly about what we need to do to grow our business. So that's how you become a chief weed officer. And of course, then you got to get the T-shirt.
Yeah, well, we'll do that for sure.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. I love it. And, this ability to, what I observed in reading and just learning about this model is that, weeds have to not only be able to pass on the message, but they've got to pass on a message that can in turn get passed on. And so learning how to be a better communicator, learning how to build connections and networks where people not only are willing to receive your message, but they're so enthusiastic about what you're doing that they want to share it in turn. That's how that leverage begins to get created. Is that correct, Stu?
Yeah, I think so. And you guys didn't pay me to plug contact mapping, but what you're doing with contact mapping is absolutely weed-like. It helps people become very weed-like because it helps them collaborate. And I think it's, I was realizing this just before we went on, like, oh my God, there's such a huge contact patch here between weed strategy and what you guys are doing. I think that's amazing. But yeah, I mean, we have to create these unfair advantages as well, and I mentioned there's a W.E.E.D mindset, and that's leveraged with unfair advantages against collective scale. And so creating unfair advantages for our business also is just critical. If we don't have unfair advantages, we really have no business being in business, and we won't be in business for long. I think you probably recognize that fully, because contact mapping is doing quite well. I can see it's doing well. And I'm kind of curious, what are some of your unfair advantages? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, we finally got people to understand that it isn't about the app, it's about the human being. And you walk into a meeting without agenda and have the agenda that you have be the agenda of a person across the table. It clears everything, because
Wow.
everybody else is trying to pitch something and we're just hitting them right in the heart. And it becomes this little fencing game of us talking about them and them talking about their product. And all of a sudden they realize they've lost before they even started. That's one of our W.E.E.D advantages. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I would say is no one is expecting to be remembered. No one is we're like, it's so much more common in our experience in really any business setting that we're really talking at each other. And so when you actually demonstrate that you really cared about somebody and that you listened to them and you paid attention to what they had to say, that becomes an incredible competitive advantage that stands out from 90% of the pack. And what we create that I think is that unfair advantage is all the time we hear from customers. My contact mapping app reminded me it was time to reach out to Stu today. I looked at my notes. I remembered something about a conversation or an interaction or something that was unique to our relationship together. And I reached out to him. And what happened next was much like these people that say, oh my God, I made $300,000. It's this situation where they go, the person was, they couldn't believe I'd called them that day. They tell me I was about to call you, which is never true. That's just what people say because they wished they would have thought to call you. And they say, I want to buy what you have, or I want to do business with you, or I have this opportunity for you, or whatever it is. And all of that would have never in any way occurred if you wouldn't have taken the time to reach out. And so these are the kind of unfair advantages that you can create, really kind of combining the themes of your two books, Stu, that it's about caring enough about people to put a little bit of effort into standing way above the rest of the pack. And then to have this sort of insurgent mindset that W.E.E.Ds have of, we're not just going to do the basic. We're not going to do the bare minimum. We're not going to do what everybody else has done. We are going to take over the world. We're going to do it together in community. And we want everybody to be part of this movement instead of having it be just all about me on an island. And so that's what those things are really about. So we got to take one more quick break. We're going to come back with Stu Heinecke right after this. He's the author of How to Grow Your Business Like a W.E.E.D. Make sure you go check out the new book on Amazon. You're going to absolutely love it. You're listening to the Legacy Leadership Show with Adrian and Tom Chenault on the Genesis Communication Network.
Bang, bang. Good boy.
How about that? All right. We got one last short segment here.
Okay.
And we'll have some fun.
We really love you. Your eyes twinkle. You can feel your heart a mile away. That shirt was just a complete shock, which was adorable. And, Natural Living with Diane, Terry Dawson, we love you from Western Nebraska. It's a beautiful day.
It's pretty cool. All right.
And we're back. It's Tom Chenault, Adrian Chenault. We got Stu Heinecke with us, and this guy's written an amazing couple of books that if you haven't bought them on Amazon by now, I'm coming to your house. They will change your life, because I'm telling you, you want your business to grow like a weed. And sometimes we are so controlling of the process that we don't let it grow. And what he's done is proven to you that let that baby go, man. It's going to fly if you just let it. Go out there, just lead with your chin, stop thinking so much, and you win, right, Paco?
That's exactly. I love it. So, Stu, you got the new book out here in the world. You are making big waves. The people that have already put amazing testimonials on the book, including Kathy Ireland, Nicola Korzine, who's the executive director of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. I mean, you have some huge people who are already behind this. When you think about the vision of the impact you want to create from this book, what's the legacy that you think that this new concept is going to leave in the world?
Oh, there are a bunch of them, but one is, and it's going to sound crazy. I think this one is going to be the biggest business growth book in the world. Not because I wrote it, not because of this interview, any of those things, not because of anything I've done. It's because the weeds are so awesome. They're just incredible, and it will dawn on people that, my God, yeah, you know what? We've known we've all known the expression to grow like a weed. We know what that means, but now someone has actually sat down and figured out, well, how do they actually grow like this? How do they spread like this? And how could we do the same thing in our business? You asked about legacy. One of the things, and you mentioned the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. I mentioned in the book that I'm going to start a new award, an annual award called the Total Weed Award. I can't wait to call some people total weeds. And so you mentioned Nicola as well, and so we are putting together a partnership with the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, so that the Total Weed Award will become an award that's given out at in partnership with the with Nasdaq, with the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And I'll tell you what's so cool about this, because it's also total weed strategy well, for both sides, but certainly on my side, because the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center will be easily attracting media partners for this event and sponsors. That's great. It's going to be a fundraising event for the center, but those media sponsors or partners, those are critical to me, because they're going to spread more seeds than I could possibly imagine about the book. And I do believe that as people catch on to, like, no, I'm not talking about this kind of weed, first of all. And,
Sure.
But as they catch on, as they realize, oh my God, look at the weeds, look what they're doing. Oh my God, there's this book. I think it'll actually become the biggest selling book in the world on growth strategy.
I knew it. He signed the book just to Adrian. Dang it. I
got to get you one as well. And a pack of seeds for Adrian's lawn.
There we go. We want to help you promote that whole Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, everything you're doing. We are huge fans of you. Nothing is better than having your business grow out of control. And every one of you have got that opportunity if you stop thinking so small, right, Stu?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can spread worldwide.
Yeah, think about that.
That's a huge deal. And these connections, right? What I love about what Stu has talked about today and what I see you doing in each one of our interactions is that you're thinking about, how do we make connections that have this, win-win of, spreading effect for everybody, right? What you're doing is helping the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center to further its message and to connect to more and better entrepreneurs. When they put you up and create this award, that's allowing you to connect to media partners and to further your message as well. And so all over the place, there are these win-win opportunities to create things and to create connection points that allow for everybody to be better off than before you got to the table. And that, again, that comes back to what this is all about, right? It's not about how do I be winner take all and get what I want, and I don't care if you get what you want. It's about, how do I be more creative in finding ways for everybody to win and to put the right kind of people together where I see the opportunity for these two parties to win together. And that's something that every one of us can do.
Yeah, I think so. And really, I just absolutely love the fact that it sounds like I'm doing a commercial for contact mapping, but I'm not. I just love the fact that you help people collaborate, because it's just such a huge part of the WE.E.D model. And when I'm consulting with people on how to grow their business, we're focusing. We have to focus on the whole model, but we end up going right to, what are your unfair advantages? What are some of the ones? What sorts of other unfair advantages can you cultivate? And then also, what kind of alliances do you have? Because you don't do it with one-to-one leverage. You do it with at least sort of multi-channel leverage, and even better if it's collective scale. So just on a broad basis or broad scale, and you help people do it. It actually is a great fit. It's an amazing fit.
Do you know what the big question of the day is?
What is it?
How did we live our life this long without him?
That's exactly right.
Unbelievable. We love you, man.
We need to create an alliance.
Yes, we do.
That's what we need to do.
Oh my goodness. So please go right now, either go to StuHeinecke.com or just jump on Amazon, search for How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. You are going to absolutely love this book. You're going to love Stu and what he's up to. And he's making a positive difference in the world just like you are. So make sure you do that. Stu, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited for what the future holds as we collaborate together. And so thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you for having me. And Tom, so great to meet you finally. Thanks. This was a blast.
You are you just got a spirit about you that I love. Thanks a million, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next week, we've got Jordan Adler, author of Beach Money.
You won't like him nearly as well as Stu. Nah, he's an amateur.
So thanks for listening to Legacy Leadership on the Genesis Communication Network. We'll see you all next week. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh my God, Stu, you are a rock star.
This is a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love what you guys are doing. And I wasn't like pumping you. It's like, I'm just saying, oh my God, look what you're doing. Because you were helping people collaborate in a kind of a natural way. And
treat
what an
people
amazing
like
thing you're
human
doing.
beings instead of prospects. That's all it is just dropping them where they are instead of where our agenda is, and getting rid of that stigma. And that's all it boils down to. And man, did you do that illustration behind you?
Yes.
Oh, I knew it. We ought to have him paint our wall.
Yeah.
We love you, Stu.
We got to talk.
All right, man. I'm going to get you. Can he give you my phone number?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All
I'd
right.
love to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Denise Dunlap, love you.
Soon.